Greetings, fellow conquerors, kings, YouTubers, etc., and welcome to the 7K subs special, where I am celebrating the fact that my channel has, as of last night, hit 7,000 subscribers and gotten its 1 millionth view. Whoever did that, thank you very much, and thank you, everyone, for being a part of this channel as we play this awesome game, EU4, among others that I've done, of course, like the recent series I've done, Medieval 2 Total War, or that I've started, Medieval 2 Total War. If you haven't checked that series out, recommend it. It's a pretty cool game. You might like it if you're into EU4. At any rate, I really want to thank, everyone for getting me this far and supporting the channel, and also being just like a great community. You guys are awesome, okay? Seriously, I've been a part of a comment section of like a lot of other videos, and there's just so much trash and vitriol that gets spewed around in other comment sections, and that doesn't really happen with you guys. You all are typically very supportive, not only of me, but of each other, and that's awesome, because that's the kind of community I want to have, okay? I want you guys to be as helpful to me as you are to other people. For example, I once, saw someone who said he was having trouble with France, right? And I think on a lot of other channels where people tend to care more about min-maxing and have that kind of elitist attitude, people like that would be shunned from this channel and they wouldn't feel welcome or included. And that's not the kind of channel I want to have. I don't want people to feel ashamed because they can't play as a certain nation, and it's because honestly, it's probably just that they haven't figured it out yet, right? Like, and I don't mean that in like a condescending way, because there is a point in EU4 eventually where it clicks and you're like, okay, I understand the game now. I understand the politics and how to wage wars, and and you still make mistakes. Even I have over 800 hours in the game, which is actually kind of inconsequential compared to people like Arumba and Shen, who have literally like 10,000 hours. But the point is that I'm trying to make is people come and have varying skill levels when they play this game. And so this is, I just really want to thank you guys for making this a channel where everyone is welcome and kind of supporting me and my vision of that, and I want to encourage you to continue to be like that and continue to be just good people, like you guys are great. I sincerely mean that. And I want to give particular thanks to a couple of people who were kind of here from the beginning, who I just really want to thank. Like I have a couple of their names written down, and there are plenty of other people too. These are far from the only people who were here at the beginning. But first and foremost, and I hate to play favorites, but the one I remember the most is a Dutchman, goes by the username of Oil Bucket, and he was kind of my first like fan, and I just really wanted to thank Oil Bucket personally. I want to thank you personally for being so supportive of everything I made in a couple months ago when my channel really started to take off, back in July of this year. And I also want to thank a couple of other people too. Yost in Nepal, he's a bit newer than some of the other people, but he's also been a very very connected, and he keeps up to date with everything. Very involved fan. I wanted to thank him because he provides advice as well as saying like, well, I like the video, and not that there's anything wrong with saying you like the video. Every time you tell me that you liked a video, that tells me that I'm doing something right, and I really appreciate that, because if I don't know what I'm doing right, then I'm just going to keep doing the wrong thing, if that makes sense. I wanted to thank two other people, and this next person is from like forever ago. His name is Michael Moss. I think he subscribed like so this is the kind of thing about my channel. My channel is about 2 years old, actually 2 or 3 years old. I started this channel forever ago, and I'll kind of go into the full story later, but basically back then it didn't have any viewers. And the birth of this channel could honestly be considered as July of this year, even though it's been around since, for a couple of years now. But back then, early on, when I made the first video that got any attention, which was my EU4 Revolution guide, which is in my guides playlist if you haven't checked that playlist out yet, you might find something useful in there. Anyway, he commented on that video and said he really liked it and he'd like to see more topical videos, and that got me to the suggestion of like, well, I'm thinking about making a top 10. And I didn't make that top 10 for probably like another year after I said that I was going to make it. but I did eventually make it, and then that got me on the map. So I wanted to give a special thanks to Michael Moss, I believe is the username he goes by, for giving me that kind of push and that motivation and that support that makes it so that encourages me to keep doing this, you know. Next, we have a guy by the name of his username was originally Vuk, and he changed his name to something else. His comments are always extremely distinctive, and I don't even need to know his name to actually, like, whenever he comments something, I can just see it. And he basically predicted this happening. He, in my last, I think it was my 2,500 subs, he's like, I'm just going to be sitting there stunned and confused while I get like 5,000, you know, subscribers later, and 5,000 happened, and I didn't even have time to make the celebration of 5,000 when it happened, and that's why this video is coming out when it is. But I mean, it's convenient too, because this is also 1 million views. But anyway, you know, thank you so much to Vuk, you know, VUK, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, who has also been instrumental in just supporting the channel and, you know, really helping me continue to do this. And again, I want to thank everyone, new and old subscribers, and anyone interested in this channel. Like, thank you so much for being a part of the content, and I hope we continue to grow as a community and continue to, you know, bring that sort of, you know, I want to say niceness because it sounds too cheesy, but classiness. Let's just continue to keep it classy around here. And, yeah. So now I want to go on with a couple of announcements, and then after I get done with these and some questions, I want to ask about, I want to tell you my YouTube story, without much more time. So let's get through these announcements real quick, and then we'll get on to that. So the first thing I want to ask, and this is a purely like hypothetical at this point, I just want to get like a head count, I guess, because honestly, guys, I'm getting to the point where I can consider potentially doing this for a living. Isn't that crazy? And if I did that, and if I made more money from playing EU4, from doing this channel, I could do things like upgrade my PC, which I'm planning on doing by Christmas anyway, of course. But I could also move somewhere with better internet, like I could get the money to move somewhere else, stop working a shitty retail job, and you know, with the better internet, I could make more and better content, you know, in 1080p. It won't matter because my internet will be super fast, you know, the next place that I move to. So the question I want to ask is, you know, would you, if I created one, support a Patreon? I'm not asking how much you would pledge. I just want to know if you would, you know, do like a monthly donation, or even just consider doing a one-time. I just want to get like a head count and know, you know, get a general idea. It's like would you do that? I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but if enough people say yes, like I probably will, because if I can get paid doing this, then I can make better content for you guys, and it's going to be better content too, and I really just want to deliver that to you guys. And so that kind of follows up with the next question. If you're watching this and you've made it this far, what would you like to see more from the channel? Are you happy with the current flow of Let's Play videos? Or did you like subscribe for a top 10 video and then find out like I'm not making those as much anymore? And maybe you'd like to see more top 10s, or maybe you saw my like quantity versus quality video, or some of my other idea group discussion videos, and you'd like to see more topical videos. Let me know in the comments, please. Because I want to make things that you guys want to watch. That's, you know, the number1 thing. And on that note, I actually want to ask, you know, how many of you have watched my Medieval 2 series, and how many of you would like to see it to completion, basically? Because, you know, I love Medieval 2 Total War, but I don't want to make things that people aren't going to watch, because, you know, then nobody's having fun, right? People are just going to want more EU4, right? And with that, I would actually like to announce that I plan on doing a third series. I know this is crazy. On top of the Byzantium playthrough and the Medieval 2 Total War playthrough. And this series is going to be up to you guys. This is going to be the 7,000 subscribers Let's Play. So I'm going to give you a list, and all of these titles are from Paradox. They're all grand strategy games, but you guys got to let me know in the comments which one you want me to play. So first of all, I was thinking of doing an EU4 campaign, doing a second one, where we play as Delhi. And what I'm calling this campaign potentially is the Arumba Test. And what I mean by that is, after Rights of Man came out, Arumba, another, you know, a really big YouTuber for EU4 and Paradox in general, who I have loads of respect for, I was watching his Golden Horde playthrough recently, and I noticed he really values innovative ideas. And so the idea behind this campaign is we're going to try to take his path, test out innovative ideas, see for ourselves if that's something we really agree with. And this is not like a call out to Arumba. I just am genuinely curious to like try his playstyle, because I know that these days I don't really take innovative ideas that much, and so this would be a great chance to do that. And see if that works for us, or if I'd prefer to keep playing the way that I play, which is usually like administrative humanist. Now, in addition to that, I have some other campaigns in mind. A lot of people have asked for Victoria 2, and I could do a Victoria 2 campaign. However, I'm not very good at Victoria 2, so it wouldn't be like an expert pro playthrough or anything like that. It'd probably be more for fun as one of the major powers, which might be boring to some people, but as well, I wouldn't mind doing a Crusader Kings 2 campaign as well. However, I'm also not particularly great at Crusader Kings 2. But that would be fun, because like you guys could help me out, because I've played about 80 hours of Crusader Kings 2, I think. Actually, maybe closer to like 100 at this point. And you know, it would be great if you guys like taught me how to play, if that made sense. Like, give me some of the like the more in-depth advice and like what goals I should be going for, because that's the kind of thing I don't really know about CK2 as much. Is like I get the gist of like some of the things I'm able to do, but I don't like know the finer workings of it that would make me as good at CK2 as I am at EU4. In addition to that, I am also willing to try a Stellaris or even a Hearts of Iron 4 campaign. And if either of those games pique your interest, you know, maybe give a list of like all these campaign ideas that I've listed and rank them, and let me know which ones you would prefer to see. And then depending on what the comments say, then I'm gonna make that campaign. So it's up to you guys. So you gotta vote on that in the comments. And that's more or less it for the announcements. So now I'd like to move on to the next part, which is going to be talking about my YouTube story and kind of a little bit about my own life. I would love to give my actual name to you guys. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just I do kind of value my privacy. And this is the internet anyway. You know, wouldn't you rather call me Dark than by my actual name? Admittedly, Darkfireslide could be a better name, but you know, at the same time, like I think it works. At any rate, let me talk about kind of my life and how I got into YouTube and kind of my my past, if you will, my backstory. You know, that they always give you, like, in like a BioWare games, like, it's very important to know this character's ins and outs and his backstory. So this is going to be mine. All right. So when I was younger, when I was a wee lad, I'm not really like that young. I'm in my 20s. I'm not particularly old in the first place. But when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, I was very much into video games because they were kind of an escape for me. I have a fractured family. My mom and dad divorced when I was about 10 years old. As I recall, I might be a little bit off here and there, but video games were kind of like my way of coping, if that makes sense. It was like I would play a lot of Game Boy. I would play Pokemon Yellow, and Pokemon Gold was also like, I just played so much Pokemon back in the day. And it was funny because when I was like 16 or something, my best friend would mention to me at one point, he's like, hey, the Pokemon's like a role-playing game, right? And I'm like, shit, it is. Which is just kind of like a funny thing. It was a funny thing to think about at the time. But so video games were kind of like my way of getting away, but at the same time, people were really like judgmental of games back then. Not 20 years ago, but closer to 15 or 16. And I mean, it was rough because it was something I loved to do. It was I could even call it my passion, if you want to go that far. It was just something I loved to do more than anything else. And people were constantly like, "Oh, you should get outside and go do things, and you should go and you should read books instead of playing video games." And I did read a lot of books. It's same reason more or less. First of all, I do enjoy reading books in the first place. But video games were they were my thing. That was what I loved to do more than anything else. I just loved imagining myself in these fantastical situations, or in the cases I found later, rewriting history through these kind of alt history games, like Civilization or EU4, obviously. And so how do we get from that to here? Well, as I became a teenager, I started to really suffer from depression because of the disconnect between my family life and I was raised in a church that was pretty harsh, and that conflicted a lot with me because I didn't necessarily agree with the ideas so much that the church presented, and it was rough. I was genuinely severely depressed for a good number of years, and I didn't seek professional help for probably 3 years or something like that until I finally saw a therapist and got some help a little bit to help me understand kind of what was going on. And if you have depression or anxiety or anything to the point where it is crippling you and stopping you from doing something, if you can't afford a therapist, you should absolutely go and afford to get a therapist. But that being said, video games also they help with depression. There's a lot of studies that talk about how like video games can kind of have this like it's kind of like the idea of giving a goal, and video games present a goal that you can complete within a reasonable number of time, and that feeling of success that you get in video games when you do well, it helps your mood. Even some people say that it's like sometimes video games are better than actual therapy. I wouldn't actually say that as that's more like an online rumor, because we all love video games so much, of course. But at the same time, I don't think you should ever feel ashamed for playing video games. I don't think you should let them ruin your life. On the other hand, you shouldn't stop going to your job because you're playing a video game. Obviously, you need food to eat and you need money to play video games, but at the same time, it's apparently a phenomenon that video games do actually help with depression and anxiety and things like that. More so depression, from what I understand. Anxiety probably less so, just because of the nature of anxiety. Which kind of leads you to college. In college, which I started recently, I was initially a psychology major, and I took a couple of psychology classes, and so I understand some of the basics of psychology, but not necessarily the the actual brain chemistry, if you will. But I realized that I wasn't that good at the science part of it, and I realized this is a science, not an art, if that makes sense. And so I wasn't particularly good at it, and so I ended up switching to English. So I am an English major, and I'm actually fairly close to graduating. And the thing is, doing English, I learned a lot more about entertainment and learning how to speak, because it was something I was good at, but I didn't realize that wow, I'm actually really good at this. And aside from that, it gave me a lot of self-confidence on how I could actually go about creating things. At first it was writing, but then later on I found out that I was good at I was really good at playing video games, and Let's Plays were starting to become really popular. And one YouTuber in particular that I watched, who goes by the name of Pixelated Apollo, who mostly does Total War, but also does other historical strategy games like Company of Heroes, as of recent times. I still watch him occasionally. He made a video once explaining how do you actually make a YouTube video, and I watched that video, and I was like, wow, I could do that, and I think that I would be really entertaining if I did this. And so I gave it a shot, and at first it kind of crashed and burned. I didn't really get a lot of views. I only made Let's Plays, and just a small tidbit for anyone else starting out a channel, Let's Plays are a terrible idea for getting your channel off the ground and getting noticed. To get noticed, you really need to make stuff like top 10s or topical videos where you talk about something and make it well edited and appealing to people within a certain market. And so I tried that, and the Let's Plays didn't really take off. And finally, for those of you who don't know, the Revolution mechanic in EU4 is really obscure. It's added in by the Art of War DLC, and it's just this really obscure DLC that nobody knew anything. Nobody knew how to really work the mechanics, if that makes sense. And so I made a guide on how to actually use the Revolution mechanic in the game to your advantage, because it's a disaster, right? So you want to stop it because it's a disaster. Except that if your country becomes revolutionary, you get all these OP crazy bonuses that are just absolutely absurd. So that being said, yeah, I made that guide, and it didn't get noticed for a long time, and finally, one day I wake up and it's got 10,000 views. And people are commenting like crazy on this video, and people are like, I want to see more from you. I like your explanation of this video, and so I went with that, and I started making my top 10s because I said hey, I could make this top 10, except that Even after that video started getting views, I didn't make content for like, I think 6 months to a year or something like that. But then finally, one day, I'm like, I need to make a top 10 video. And that's when I made my first top 10 video, which was the Holy Roman Empire, my top 10 picks for the Holy Roman Empire, you know, nations, like the best ones, if you will. And that video really just kind of is where it all started a couple months ago. And I'm really, you know, really happy with how I got here, and you guys have given me like a lot of confidence in myself, just by virtue of like supporting me so much when making these videos. And I still suffer from depression. I still have to deal with it sometimes, where I wake up and I don't feel like doing anything. I just have no motivation. But then I read some of your comments sometimes, and it's like, you know what, I can do this, and it helps me get through the day sometimes. So you guys are the best, you know. And of course, going to college in and of itself taught me a lot of skills, like speech especially was something I was really, really weak at. And I took a speech class, one of the most useful classes I ever took. If you ever have an opportunity to take a public speaking class, take it seriously and really learn from it. Because speaking is not necessarily an inherent skill. It is something, but it is definitely something that you can teach yourself and get better at if you apply yourself to it. And I think that's obvious in me, you know. If you'll take me as an example, because I was not always as fluent of a speaker or as charismatic or whatever else you want to call it. I was not always oratorically gifted, which oratorically probably isn't even a word, but you get the idea. And so, you know, taking that class and other, you know, understandings of classes in college have given me like a really great understanding of the, you know, the world around me, and of my own, of myself especially. And one of the biggest takeaways that I got that really inspired me to do YouTube, I was in this class. It was a you know, literary editing class. Like I'm an English major that focuses on editing, if that makes sense. And the professor in that class says, he says, you know, I talk to a lot of people who say that they want to write something, that they've been thinking about an idea that they plan on writing, and then they never actually get around to it. And he's like, the thing is, if somebody is a writer and they think of an idea like that, they're gonna write. Writers write. It's what they do. And so I you know, that really gave me something to think about. And you know, for me, I'm like, man, I game all the time, and I don't really write or read all that much anymore. Like, video games are kind of what I do. It's like my life. And I watch videos all the time, and I play video games all the time, and it just seemed like a natural, like, I play video games, therefore I'm a gamer, and I can make videos, and I can do something. And that was just kind of like the last, like, you know, ticking, you know, the last straw, if you will, for me to, you know, the last bursting point in the proverbial dam of me getting on to making videos and making content. And you know, that's kind of my story, is going from being this depressed kind of mopey person to becoming a content creator who is actually really entertaining and really funny. And you should think about that in your own lives. You know, you all are capable of something. You are all good at something. And you should find what that is, and you should do it, and you should be proud of the work that you do and feel good about yourself for doing it. And don't disparage other people for not being as good as you as something else. And instead praise them for being good at what they're good at too. And that's kind of my YouTube story, if you will. If there's any questions you want to ask, you know, comment them, and I will try to get to them. There's actually an issue with YouTube right now where if I'm uploading a video, it won't let me comment on my own videos that I've already uploaded. So it's really frustrating. It makes it really hard to interact with you guys sometimes. But I still try my best to answer as many questions and comments as I can. But so let me know what you guys think of that in the comments as well. I know I've asked you a lot to do in the comments of this section of this video, but seriously, you know, do the work. I want to know what you guys, you know, this channel is going to be what you guys make of it. So, anyway, thank you so much for joining me and for listening to me ramble on for 24 minutes about my channel and my life. And I hope, you know, that you guys will continue to enjoy my content in the future, and that hopefully that there's a future in this, and it all starts with you guys. You know, I don't mean to put pressure on you, but you know, it's up to you guys whether or not this channel succeeds or fails. And I will do my best to keep my end of the bargain by making content, and making good content, and discussing things, and being good at games while also still being entertaining for you guys. That is my mission statement for you guys. I want to be good and entertaining at the same time, but not to the point where I disparage people and, you know, make fun of them for not being good at the games. I don't want to make anyone feel downcast. That's my goal, really. I want to make people love this stuff as much as I do, and enjoy it as much as I do, and I hope that I transfer some of that to you. But that's kind of going to be the end. I wasn't really thinking of like a conclusion when I wrote some bullet points for what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, that's more or less all that I wanted to talk about in this video. Like I said, if you've got any questions, I will attempt to answer them. And also, I'm fine, by the way. I do still suffer from depression, but I deal with it, and I'm okay. Everything's fine. So don't worry about me. I'm good. You worry about yourself, and you take care of yourself, okay? And I'll see you guys on the next one.